I think that the North Koreans really took a measured and calculated approach to the timing of when they launched the missiles, and of course the geographic location. They could have launched it during the summit with South Korean President Yoon and President Biden, or they could have launched it when President Biden was meeting Prime Minister Kishida or the Quad members. The fact that it took place after these events demonstrates that North Korea was sending a message that, hey, we're still here. We still require attention. You better come to us so we can deal with the sanctions and other issues between us. But they also were considerate of the players within the region, understanding that being too provocative would have had the opposite effect.
Which is interesting to see that they considered that sort of measure in a way. I mean, it is tricky for them because right now they are not a big priority for the United States. I mean, is it a concern in a way that allows them to continue developing their programs?
Well, I think that the timing, of course, was related not only to the United States and North Korea not being a priority for the United States, but also for the new incoming Yoon administration, which is basically said that we're going to be, we'll reach out our hand if North Korea does reach out their hand, but we're going to invest in deterrence. We're going to strengthen our trilateral relationship between the United States, Japan, and South Korea, and we're going to protect ourselves. So I think the North Koreans were, again, sending a signal not just to the United States, but also to the South Koreans that they should continue this process of reaching out to the North.
Also, just around the meeting was this Tokyo saying that they had to scramble jets because both China and Russia were, bringing military aircraft very close to Japan's airspace. An interesting display, I guess, from those two nations, given that Quad meeting.
So what we generally see by China in particular, but China and Russia, is they generally reciprocate action by the Japanese or the United States, or in this case, the Quad. So they wanted to demonstrate that the Chinese and the Russians are aligned in the resistance to the Quad, the resistance to this growing alignment of, I think, 4 important Indo-Pacific countries in terms of providing public goods to the region, but also placing front and center the revisionist behavior by both China and Russia. Russia is explicit, of course, with the invasion of the Ukraine, and China's revisionist behavior is a little bit more subtle with its gray zone operations in the South China Sea and the East China Sea, but also its belligerent rhetoric and going into the air defense identification zones surrounding Taiwan. So they're really reciprocating the Quad behavior, but again, the Quad are looking at China and understanding the challenges that China faces in terms of the South China Sea, the East China Sea, across the Taiwan Straits, and of course the Himalayan Plateau. And they want to send the strongest signals possible to China and other revisionist powers such as Russia that the Quad are really tightly aligned on pushing back against revisionism. But at the same time, they're willing to work with China when they can on non-traditional security issues.
How do you view China's position at the moment with these groupings solidifying, with these warnings from Joe Biden, even if he walked them back a little bit, that they would come to Taiwan's defence? Do you think it gives them pause?
Well, I think that China is looking at what's happened in terms of the invasion of Ukraine, the united front by the United States, the EU, Japan, South Korea, Australia, in terms of financial sanctions, economic sanctions, and supplying arms to the Ukrainians. It's really demonstrated, I think, the dominance of the United States and its Western partners in terms of how they can use the financial system against bad actors, but also partnerships are strong, built on shared values and norms, and of course shared institutions. And this is a big worry for China.
Do you feel the Quad has moved closer to really meeting and spelling out its strategic objective to try and contain China, or do you feel there's still some way to go?
I think the Quad is, again, an alignment of these 4 countries. It's not an alliance, so there's no requirement, for example, the Indians to come and fight on behalf of the Japanese and the Australians and the Americans. That is something that is distant, and I don't think it will occur within the Quad for many, many years to come, and this will really be determined by the behavior that China does within the region. But that being said, I think there's broad alignment that they need to have shared views and really articulate their shared concerns about Chinese behavior within the region. These pressure points, such as Taiwan, if there was a forced reunification of Taiwan, it would disrupt about $5.5 trillion in imports and exports going through the South China Sea and the sea lanes of communication. It would disrupt all those energy resources, and it would disrupt the second, third, and 11th largest economy, the Chinese, Japanese, and South Korean economies. They need to be explicit and need to say that these are the red lines because they'll have global implications. It's not something that'll just stay in the region.
Stephen, always good to get your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Beth.